Hey Beagies, welcome to the Craft Beer Channel. I am down at one of the best pubs in central London, the Sutton Arms, where we're going to be starting a series all about Bright IPA. Where did it come from? What is it? And of course that includes brewing our own Bright IPA.
Hey, Garrett.
What's this?
Well, look who's come strolling into town.
I live here.
There's a nice YouTube channel you've got there, Garrett. It would be a shame if something would have happened to it.
Why are you talking like RFK? Stop that.
What's going to happen to it?
No, nothing's going to happen to it. Okay, so here's the thing. We were over there and we heard you talking about Bright IPAs. And we just want to say that there is only room for one channel to be brewing a Bright IPA with a brewery. And it ain't around here, mate. It's up north, it's somewhere else, and it's with Planet Beer TV, not you guys.
If it's up north, can we just both brew one?
I suppose you could do that, actually, thinking about it.
Seems pretty
Probably
reasonable,
a bit
actually.
hard, to be honest.
Should we talk about it in the pub?
Let's do that. Yeah.
Let's do it, yeah.
Sounds good.
This is kind of the best outcome.
I mean, it was a bit like a Western, though, wasn't it, boys? It's like, you know, less Western, more West Coast, though, eh?
While they get the beers in, let me introduce Paul and Chris, founders of Planet Beer TV, a great new YouTube channel full of often hilarious and sometimes even informative beer content. Seriously, it's been brilliant to see a new, ambitious beer channel start, but we know how tough it is in the beginning. So we were super keen to introduce them to you while still showing that we know more about IPA. So I appreciate the heckle. It's always nice to be heckled and turn around and know the person. That's lovely. We've had a little chat about our Bright IPA, dual Bright IPA situation. But before we get into that, I thought it might be nice to have a little chat about being YouTubers, about being beer tubers.
Beer tubers, yeah. That's a word.
It's been a while since a new channel came along, and it's been a while since a new channel came along that I think has some ambition and is telling some great stories. And so I've been enjoying Planet Beer TV. Where did it come from?
So, born in 2021, I was frequenting Paul's
COVID, baby.
bottle shop. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. COVID, baby.
We still call him that to this very
That's my nickname. Paul used to have a bottle shop in Stourbridge called Hall, and I was in there regularly, spending all the money I couldn't spend in pubs.
He kept us afloat during COVID, so
Okay.
fair play.
I guess this is an awkward question. What were we not doing that you thought, well, we need to fill that niche?
You were the big inspiration.
Yeah.
But Chris kept coming in, and I was behind the bar, and Chris kept coming in and annoying the hell out of me and going, I'd love to do a YouTube channel. I'm an editor, by the way. I do editing. And I'm a director. I do directing, corporate film directing. I'd love to do high production value, be a YouTube. And there's only one other channel, you guys, who are doing anything I can see that's valid. But I'd love to do, just throwing everything I know into it and get something set up. And in the end, I just went, for God's sake, all right, okay, I will help you do that.
Well,
So were you looking for a face? And this was the one you...
Originally, yeah.
Right.
I wasn't too fussed about going in front of the camera because I was thinking, like, it'd be good actually to have someone that's more of a face for it. And at the same time as well, Paul's also doing these Meet the Brewers events. So like Cloudwater, Pastore, there were two like early scalps that we managed to get because they were doing like an event at Hall, and then we're like, well, what we'll also do is we'll catch them just before the event starts, before the pub opens.
Ask them the same questions, but stick it on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So originally that's why if you go right back to our very first couple of videos, there's another guy in the videos called Dave who does the Daft About Craft podcast. So he was one of the original presenters in there.
We all started with a third person.
Did you guys start with
Body
that as well?
bumped off. We did, yeah.
Oh, interesting. I think at this point as well, Paul had kind of almost checked out as well. And I was like, well, I've just had this meeting with Ollie from Bruiser. We've kind of struck off a bit of a relationship with them. He said he can get us pretty much any of their breweries. So I was like looking through his catalogue, and I was like, Verdant. I love Verdant. I want Verdant. We have a conversation with Verdant, and they're like, yeah, great. We'd love to have you on. And then I said to Paul, met up with Paul in the pub, and I was like, right, I'm going into Verdant in November. Do you want to come? And he's like, fuck yeah.
It was kind of Chris's passion for it anyway, because as Chris said, I kind of checked out. I was so busy, trying to run a failing business. But he kind of revitalised my love of beer, which wasn't the corporate side of the health side I was facing at the time. So I went, you know what, great, let's go and do that. And we kind of, on the way down there, we kind of rejigged the concept of Planet Beer TV as a concept. You start niching down a little bit, and you start trying to find ways to work and push out a bit more content. And we kind of fell on the fact that we kind of like more irreverence, and we liked a little bit of humour in it. Don't take it too seriously, but at the same time, we're educating ourselves and hopefully giving some of our audience a little bit of a bit of a giggle and and learning things at the same time. So,
what is it like to be sub 1,000 subscribers in a world that is now it's the second biggest search engine on earth?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pull you up on that. It's sub 2,000 because we're on 1,600. So
right. Because when I first met you guys, you were sub 1,000. You were trying to get to monetization and this kind of stuff, and I gave you sort of any wisdom that I kind of had, but that was coming from a YouTube channel that's 13 years old.
So, I suppose I got the immediate feeling that I've had throughout my life growing up, which is, fuck, I've just slightly missed the bus on this. Like, if I'd have just done this a little bit sooner.
Yeah. Start now, folks. It's the best advice
if you have any ideas. Yeah, absolutely.
Start now.
There's no better time than now to just go out there and do it. Because, I was like dawdling on actually launching. Because I think we were talking about it all through, like, 2020. Before actually launched in 2021, and obviously knowing what you guys had done, essentially your channel experienced like massive growth. I mean, I discovered you guys pretty much through COVID. Through
it's the story of most of our hardcore viewers. It was COVID where they came.
And I suppose what we're seeing now is essentially a kind of it's similar to the way bars and there's like a weird parallel to, I suppose, how bars and hospitality are, in the sense that like it's difficult to grow now because there's just like all these other factors just baked in, so much to the point of like we're just at saturation. It's a saturation point of content creators like TikTok and all that sort of stuff. And it seems that we're perhaps being a bit too scattergun on things. We're doing perhaps too many things and trying to appeal to too broad amount of people. I think we're just going through a bit of a phase of just seeing what sticks. And I think the next phase is probably just nail down on what does work.
Well, the immediate next phase is obviously the competition that has brewed. I've always said to Brad, I was like, a rising tide floats all boats. But now I have the caveat, which is fuck these guys. So we're going into direct competition because we got talking about Bright IPAs and how I think we have quite differing views as to maybe what they could be, maybe what they should be, maybe whether we need another style of IPA. And so we've come up with this concept, which you are calling channel hopping, and we're trying to find a way to...
Yeah, we're going to shoehorn that in.
Shoehorn that in. But so we've come up with this concept where, with this brand new style, which nobody quite understands, where it seems to originate from the Pacific Northwest, but the name seems to come from Lewis in Sussex.
Yes.
And like this is a chance, I think, a genuine chance for not only us as YouTube channels have a say about what Bright IPA is going to be, also to explain it to the people that invented it in the Pacific Northwest who just call it IPA, by brewing our interpretations of it and have a conversation about what we think this is.
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing my research on it, admittedly, just, scattergun research as I do.
But there's not that much.
Yeah, there isn't a lot. It's obviously very new. And I'm pretty sure, and you would probably be able to verify this fairly quickly because you're friends with the guy, but I'm pretty sure that it was Beak that actually just coined the term, and it was for a series that they'd done, like an experimental series where they'd just come back from being over in the Northwest, and they were bringing something over, like whether it was some sort of hop profile or just the multi-backbone of this sort of beer, and they wanted to make something, and it was just called a Bright IPA, and they were pretty much coining it, I think.
Yeah, so I think my understanding is that they went over for hop selection, and obviously when you're over there, you're exploring the scene, and you know, the Pacific Northwest, you know, Brad and I have never actually been on a beer trip to the Pacific Northwest, but my understanding of it is that Dan and I think Robin, who were over there, were tasting all of these lightly malted, seriously juicy, dry, but very characterful beers that we don't really have over here. Over here, I think in the UK, we've got this real dogma around IPA that it's either a hazy or it's a West Coast. And I don't think so much in California there is that. It's like you can go between them.
Yeah.
And we over here try to call them mountain IPAs, modern West Coast, California IPAs. And so they tried to brew a beer that would essentially remind them of that time they had it in the Pacific Northwest and the approach that those brewers have.
From there, we moved on to debate what a Bright IPA should actually taste like. A topic even Chris and Paul disagreed on, and a conversation so drawn out and boring that we decided not to show you it. But a few more beers and sustaining pies later, we did at least have a way to find the answer.
None of us have been to the Pacific Northwest, but from what I've seen written, from what I've tasted of Bright IPAs in the UK, fairly certain I know what a Bright IPA should be, and the internet can try and tell me different. It's not gonna.
No, we might try and tell you different.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, you've got a clear idea too.
Well, we've perused the forums, and I think there's definitely like.
I'm not sure Reddit's the best source.
But we've done a lot of research. You know,
maybe
as we do with most beers.
Yeah, maybe best if we don't do this. Let's not.
No, I think you take your idea, which is wrong, and I'll take my idea, and we will go find breweries that we think will agree with us. And
that's a good idea.
We brew our IPAs, right? And Brad and I, we run a festival. It's called Love and Beer Festival. Every year, we'll release our beers there, right? And we can let the jewel court, the crown and the magistrate of Untapped and our festival decide.
And Hackney.
Who is good, and Hackney is a place. Who nailed the Bright IPA?
Okay, that works for us.
Yeah, it's going to be good as well, because I don't think we've mentioned that, of course, there's going to be a bit of a geographical battle as well, because you guys are representing the South.
Yeah.
We're definitely representing them. Well, we're from the Midlands, but we're going to take the North as our area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to see if that makes any difference as well. But this is going to be good.
It's also going to be big v small. I'm the AB InBev in this situation.
You are. Yeah,
You're the upstart.
I mean,
I've never been this before.
Yeah, kind of how it should be, really.
Yeah. Okay.
David and Goliath.
Okay, so the challenge is on. We're going to go away. We're going to find a brewery that can make the kind of Bright IPA that we believe in, and then we're going to put the final decision. Judge, jury, and executioners shall be you. I wasn't choreographed or anything.
But you can tell.
Well, it doesn't work twice.
We're all YouTube professionals.
Yeah.
With the rules set out, I headed back to the Brewdio to look at some recipes for Bright IPAs and its various closely related cousins, and to find a brewery both mad enough to take on this challenge with us and talented enough to make a beer that has to be both juicy and crisp. And I found what I thought was the perfect one.
Okay then, let's get straight into this. How do we beat Planet Beer TV at a game they essentially came up with? Well, I think it comes with clarity of thought and clarity of beer, potentially. So I've read lots of blogs, I've read lots of recipes, I've kind of got a handle on what I think the brewers and the creators of Bright IPA were trying to create. And essentially, it feeds into this phenomenon that we've seen all over the craft beer industry of late, which is they want big, bold, saturated aroma, but we recognise that 8% dippers, both in terms of ABV, but also in terms of drinkability, just isn't sustainable. So everybody's looking for ways to make crisper, cleaner, brighter, dare I say it, beers that still have that massive aroma. West Coast Pils is a great example of that. So what I think we need from a Bright IPA, and I think what people will expect from a Bright IPA, and that's how we win this competition, we say this is a Bright IPA, and they go, well, yes, it is, even though I don't know what that is by starting with a New England aroma. So lots of big, really fresh, tropical, juicy hops. But to get that bright character, to get that drinkability, also we're going to throw in something old school, something that will bring some citric character, maybe some kind of piney resin kind of character as well, that makes it feel a bit drier, a little bit less sweet and overpowering. That's the hop aroma that we want. Obviously, we can't use yeast to really amp that up, and nor do we kind of want to. I want a really clean, neutral yeast, USO5 vibes, so that just the hops really, really sing. It is kind of a harvest beer almost, in the way that Beak kind of interpreted it. So it's the best of that year's harvest, which would feed into a really clean, neutral malt body. So none of that West Coast Cara malt, Vienna malt, Munich malt, any of that kind of nonsense. It's a really pale beer, absolutely no oats like we have in New England, but maybe a little bit of wheat for head retention, protein, tiny bit of body. But ultimately, I want this to almost kind of look like a slightly hazy kind of Czech Pilsner. And I think bitterness-wise, it should be around there as well, around the 40 to 50 mark of a Czech Pilsner, because then it's going to have enough bitterness to be really drinkable, and hopefully a bit of dryness as well from the yeast, without falling kind of over into the big challenging West Coast bitterness that, you know, I love because I've been drinking it for a decade, but is a bit of a barrier to some people and can reduce drinkability over time. That's my idea of what a Bright IPA is. So when it comes to who's going to make it, we've got lots of options really, because although I said to the Planet Beer TV lot that we kind of have this dogma between West and East Coast, there are some breweries, particularly some older breweries, that have been doing that for a long time. You know, the first person that came to mind was probably Colonel, but I didn't think they'd want to jump on any kind of bandwagon. They never have in the past. Why would they jump on Bright IPA? And I'm really keen to support somebody new, somebody who hasn't been on the channel, and somebody who's making magical stuff. And so I've been really, really impressed with Drop Project down in Mitcham, South London. I think they've been producing really clean, really beautiful, really aromatic West Coast beers, but also some really quite, you know, I think they're lighter, crisper kind of New England beers as well. So I think that actually the Bright IPA might be right up their street. So I got in contact with them and said, hey, we're going into competition with Planet Beer TV to brew a Bright IPA. Do you know what that is? And do you want to get involved? And they were like, no, we don't know what that is, but we're absolutely up for getting involved. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going down to South London to meet with Joe and his team and to design pretty much on the day a Bright IPA recipe. And I've got a little ace up my sleeve, my big voluminous fleecy sleeves, to give us a bit of a head start over Planet Beer TV. If I'm gonna be the AB InBev in this video, I might as well throw my weight around.
Next week on the Craft Beer channel, we head to South London to brew with Drop Project and bring in a guest star from Yakima Chief Hops in an attempt to give us the edge. Meanwhile, Chris and Paul head to Chainhouse Brewing in Preston to brew, well, whatever. After a nervy wait and a massive dry hop, we release both beers at our annual festival Love and Beer and let the public, as well as some, well, I guess you could call them experts, decide which is best.